All right, it's not the first time he's been on the podcast. We did one way back when, I think in my office at Grantland, back when you were a kid. You were just breaking into the business. You'd only been in 18, 19 years at that point.
Yeah, I didn't have a full 25 yet. But
yeah, Triple H, good to see you again. SummerSlam's coming. SummerSlam's coming Sunday. You guys have been in the throes of, you're really the first ones to try to figure out how to have events without fans. What have you learned over the last 5 months?
Yeah, I think we were the first. I mean, it's a funny thing as I remember being in the Performance Center for an episode of NXT. We were, because of a scheduling conflict, out of the arena at Full Sail, and we were doing an episode of NXT out of the Performance Center. We were all set up to shoot in there, and we were going in I was going in on a Tuesday, and as I called Vince to say late that night to say, seemingly with all this pandemic talk going on, maybe we should leave all this stuff up in here just in case.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, it might be smart. I don't know, look into it and see what the cost would be and all that stuff to leave everything up in there and get back to me. So next day, by the time afternoon time came, he was calling me saying, I don't care what it costs, leave all the stuff up in there.
Right.
We might be headed that way by the end of the night. We did our show in there live that Wednesday with fans. By the time we were done, the NBA had shut down. We knew the trucks weren't headed to, I think they were going to Detroit at that time. They were turning around and coming to Florida, and we could do stuff on a closed set. We were going to have no fans, it looked like. And that was really the start of it. We never shut down. We stayed running the whole time, taking as much precaution as we could, following guidelines and everything. Obviously, the health and welfare of our talent comes first. But we never really shut down. There was a few shows in there that were partially pre-recorded content and all that. But and now here we are. As you saw today, they'll be putting up an insane spectacle of a set that we are calling the ThunderDome inside the Amway Center in Orlando, and we'll be taking a residency up in there for the foreseeable future. It'll start Friday night with SmackDown and continue from there. But it'll be a spectacle, and we're going to have virtual fans, or not even virtual fans, fans live but on screen.
Yeah,
real time coming in. I know the NBA is doing something similar. We'll have a lot more than that. It'll be a full, a large arena, so we'll have a lot more to fill in, and should be spectacular. I've seen it in renderings, but this company, whenever I see something in renderings that I think looks spectacular, when you see it in person, you're blown away. So I can't imagine this is going to be any different when it's done.
Yeah, when I was watching the NBA bubble basketball and seeing some of the stuff they did, they had some tricks. They had some time to really assess what might work, adding some virtual fans, adding some noise, stuff like that. And I remember thinking the first couple of days, I was like, I wonder if the WWE is working on the completely blown out version of this. And then I heard about the ThunderDome thing. I was like, oh yeah, here's the blown out version of this.
Yeah, what you don't want to do, I think, in a way, is nobody really knew where this was going to go. So you start to work on things. You do some shows with nobody in there, but nobody really understands how long this is going to last or how long it'll be till we can do anything. Then we were working on closed sets with our quite a few of our developmental talent from the Performance Center who aren't on NXT yet in crowds, and they could be a part of it, all tested and kept separate from everybody else. But the whole time we were working on a solution like this. If it lasted longer, what could we do? How could we make it bigger? What WWE is, we kind of, in a way, when you think about it, the first interactive sports for fans. And I don't just mean by being a participant or not being a participant, but just sitting there being a viewer and watching it.
Yeah.
But, the yay, the boo, the bring your signs, actively participate in the show. And that active participation sells and changes the outcome of things as it's moving forward. Maybe not the final outcome, but how performers interact and all of that. Everything is designed not just to win a game. Everything is designed to get reactions. And without those fans there, it's a different product. It really is. And since moment one, we've been trying to figure out a way to get our fans back engaged, because they are what WWE is truly at its core. Get them back engaged, get them back being a part of it in a way that was safe for everybody to do. And we think we've got a good place on it. So we'll see Friday night on SmackDown, this week on SmackDown, and then for the foreseeable future, we're picking up a residency there. So that will be our home for the foreseeable future.
Look, we knew the fans were important, and we knew they were as big of a character as any actual character you had. I don't think I fully realized how important they were until you had no fans. And even like the entrances and just the guys coming out and the way they would feed off the reaction, good or bad, or just during a match, all that stuff, to just remove it was really odd, really surreal to watch. I had trouble with it because it was almost like watching somebody dance, but they didn't have a partner anymore. And they're kind of doing all the dance moves, but there's no partner to play off of. And I don't know how you guys did it.
A stand-up comic with no one in the building, right? He's hitting his jokes, making himself pop.
He's looking around. Right.
Yeah. Anybody, is this on?
Yeah.
It was surreal. And I tell you, for me, my hat's off to our performers. Anybody that's doing this, because it's not an easy task to go out there and do what we do, especially if you've been doing it a lot of years. Either a lot of years from the standpoint of, all right, I can go out there and get my way through this, but the physicality hurts a lot more when there's nobody there making noise and you don't have that adrenaline.
Right.
On the flip side of that, if you've only been doing this for a few years and everything we tell you is about fan reaction, working towards fan reaction and listening and hearing that crowd to affect your psychology and where things are going. If you're going down a path and it's not working, fans will let you know, go down this path instead, right? That's everything we teach them. And then all of a sudden that all goes away and they're like, go out there and do it. Go have a good time.
And they're still in the habit of doing it, but there's no fans there. And then for you guys, the decision makers trying to decide who should get a push, who's doing great, you're relying so much on fan reactions. And if the crowd's dead 100%. For somebody that you love, it's like, oh, maybe this isn't working. Now you have no idea if something's working except for the internet.
100%. And so you base almost all the reactions that we have as a company are based on how crowd is reacting. I know sometimes that might be hard for people to get, but it's based on a lot of factors, right? Crowd reaction, ticket sales,
merchandise
sales, all those things factor into how you're utilizing talent and the directions that you're headed in with them, right? Short term and long term. And all of that all of a sudden goes away because now you have merch sales, but it's different. It's based on online sales, not in arena or whatever. You don't have ticket sales anymore. You don't have crowd reaction or noise. And you mentioned it yourself, social media. But social media is very tricky because it can be skewed heavily.
Oh my God.
Depending on the platform, negative algorithms in some platforms are much stronger than others. So things that resonate, something bad happens, it trends immediately. Something good happens, it doesn't even get out there because it's the way the algorithms work.
It skews to negativity, which doesn't help you. You're only 100%. Hearing if somebody sucks or if somebody's not doing well, but nobody's going on Twitter going, man, I really like that match. I really appreciate the effort of those two guys. It's not happening.
I have said this since the beginning, like in some manner, the internet makes our jobs more difficult, especially with talent, because as a talent, you can go online and selectively pick who you want to listen to and don't want to listen to. So there are certain places and people and look, in this business, everybody wants to talk about reactions or it's all opinion, right? That's all it is. 5-star rating, opinion. That's all it is. It's just an opinion. There's nobody like, if you're in the UFC, someone can go, this guy sucks, but he knocks everybody out. No, he don't suck too bad. It is what it is. And there's a definitive answer. This is a subjective business where there's opinions and they all matter, but you can selectively find your opinion. So if you're a talent, you just selectively go through the internet and everybody's saying how great you are and you're the greatest thing in the world. I don't understand why I'm not the guy.
Don't think this isn't also, by the way, don't think this isn't also a problem in the media business, but think about, no, it is. like if you're going to selectively look for reactions on the internet, you're in trouble. But think about like the rise of DX, right, in the mid '90s. If you had no fans, how would you have known you're doing well? Other than
we wouldn't have.
what would you would have guessed?
Got fired. We would have got fired is what we would have got. Yeah, we would have got fired because what was saving us is the reaction of the fans when we would come back and get told, "You do that again, and you're out of here." But the crowd was going crazy. So when we did it again and they went double crazy, it was hard to come back and have them go. Like they kind of got to go with it. You're getting the reaction that you're looking to get.
Well, in some cases, like Bray Wyatt, who I would say is probably your hottest guy right now. The no fans in a weird way is helpful in some ways for him because the stuff he's doing is so out there. He kind of doesn't need fans for some of it.
Yeah, look, I thought there's been a lot of things that have been done that have been groundbreaking to me a little bit in some manner, out of necessity for WWE anyways. Not that they've never been done before or whatever, but like the Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse at WrestleMania was like some crazy mind trip, right? Could you imagine that crazy mind trip playing on a Tron inside of a sold out 80,000 seat stadium with nothing happening in the arena, just the stadium? Like it would have got tragically booed out of the building. They wouldn't have been the ability to even try something like that. It's allowed us to go into different places, some successful, some not, judge what you can out of that. But you also see some performers, to me, the performers that can really connect emotionally with themselves, to deliver things and understand that the how and the why, those are the characters that have really excelled and don't necessarily need that fan reaction. Randy Orton, he doesn't need that fan reaction. Randy can get inside his own head and deliver something that you just give you chills.
Right.
Drew McIntyre, people like that can connect on a different level. But I think we've seen a lot of performers do that and connect at different levels than they maybe would have if they would have had, solely been looking for that 10,000 people arena reaction.
This has been probably the craziest 2-year stretch in WWE history, right? Because you had, you had a real competitor for the first time in 20 years, AEW. You had behind the scenes stuff like your CFO left and a whole bunch of things going there. You had 2 huge deals that you did. You blew out SmackDown on Fox. You had a whole bunch of TV money coming in. You're also in this whole streaming universe now where you guys were so ahead of the game with the WWE network. And now you look at all this you've a lot of competition on that end, but you could also end up potentially teaming up with one of those people. You just hired Nick Khan from CAA. He used to run CAA Sports,
which is incredible.
Now Vince's right-hand guy. And there's just all these balls moving all over the place. What do you think is the most important thing for you guys these next 5 years?
Well, there's a lot of things. Obviously, we have to continue to put out the best product possible, right? So again, in this moment of when you look at arenas that are empty and talk about how important the crowd is, it's the most important thing we have. Making sure that there's a wealth of talent coming in the door and that we have are delivering something that our fans are enjoying. And that's an ebb and a flow, but we have to stay on top of that for sure. After that, I think it's just the growth potential, and we've talked offline. I think you see this to me, the growth potential of what this company can be and become.
As a content company as much as a wrestling company, right?
Yeah, as a media company and as everything else, when you look at the rest of the world, to expand into those markets that because of geography, in the past, you've only been able to go in there for a one-off or something and come back to do television, not be able to dedicate time and effort to the market. So localizing in those places becomes very big. Sometimes, especially in the U.S., you tend to think about just the U.S., but when you start to look outside of the U.S., you look at India as just the potential alone of the amount of people, 1.5 billion people there, and we're the second biggest sport in India outside of cricket, cricket is like a religion
Yeah.
there, So the opportunities us for us there, while we're firmly planted there and everything else, we have a long, 25 plus year track record in that market, but we can get in there much deeper and create opportunities in a way that we never have been able to before because of technology and everything else.
I like that you have a competitor because I think competition is good. And
It's good. It keeps you fresh
they
and strong.
they beat you in the 18-34. They beat, I think, Raw, I think last week. But this is what happened in the mid 90s, right? Where the WWE was at a little bit of a crossroads. WCW got momentum for a year, and it led to the most creative 3-year stretch in the history of the company, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the thing when you look back over this, and I'm not going to belittle anybody's anything. That's not the intent. But when you look back at the track record of a company that can shift, pivot, and move, it might take time. It doesn't happen on a Thursday. You know what I'm saying? It takes time, effort, and there's a lot of pieces to move. But a company that historically over and over again has recreated itself, reinvented itself, stayed relevant to the next wave as it was coming in, and shifting with that and being able to ebb and flow. It is the strength of this company. It's people will talk about hard work, and anybody that can outwork Vince McMahon, God bless him. I've never seen anybody. He's worn out more people than I can count. Trust me. It's what we do, and I would put my money on this. That people ask me a lot of times, did I ever contemplate leaving in the Monday Night Wars to go someplace else? I said I'd been there and I'd been here, and once I met Vince and saw that level of passion, dedication, and everything else, there was like, no way this guy is losing. No, I mean, no, absolutely no way. And it's awe-inspiring. He really is, and he will pivot and shift, and he will put the people around him that he needs to pivot and shift, and it will work. But you talked about it before, and I think it's a funny thing. I remember coming to your studio that day, as you said, when I was a youngster, and getting started.
You're a young pup.
We were walking to the elevator, and I don't know if you remember it. You said to me offline, "Where do you see the company in 15 years or 20 years?" I believe is the number that you used. And I said, you were asking in relationship to the wrestling business, and I said, "Bill, we're Disney."
Right.
In 20 years, we're Disney. And you were like, wow, that's a lofty goal. I said, we're a media company that is more akin to Disney. Instead of a mouse at its core, we have a wrestling ring at its core. And the content and the availability to do all those things are there. And I believe you see that now more clearly, or at least I do more clearly that now than I could see it then even.
The WWE always reminds me of the NBA and even like Saturday Night Live. There are a couple things that are so dependent on having the big ticket stars, and it ebbs and flows, right? You look at the late 90s, you guys were just loaded. You just had a lot of major stars at the same time, and I think that's the biggest reason people remember it so fondly. I think the same thing happened at the beginning of the 2010s when as CM Punk was on the rise and Daniel Bryan, you just all of a sudden you just had a shitload of stars all in the same place. Yep. And you've had some stars get older, age out. You've had some stars either get hurt, or in Becky Lynch's case, she gets pregnant. How do you build the next generation for this decade? And who is it, in your opinion?
So you continue to do what you do. You continue to put talent out there. You continue to build the stars the same way that we always have. And you keep your pulse out there. But again, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen on a dime. Sometimes it's not the person that you think. You mentioned the late 90s and the amazing plethora of talent here. But if you would have gone back a few years prior to that, you would have and taken a couple of the stars that were on the top then and moved them to the side, which happened. You would have said, "Oh my God, this company has nothing,
right?
Nothing." And then you flip forward. When Stone Cold Steve Austin was brought into the company, he wasn't brought in as the guy. This is the guy that's going to save the company. When I was there, right up until the time that it happened, people were going like, "Yeah, I don't know." right? The Rock, certainly when he came in the door, a lot of potential and hope, but that first run wasn't what he or anybody else thought it was going to be. And there was a lot of people that were like, well, he's done. And, Foley, and you can go on and on from that time frame, and then they just become.
Yeah.
I think if you'd have gone shortly before that, when Nash and Hall and all these people were leaving Brett, and if you would have said who's the next one, I don't know if you'd have picked that group of people.
But in a way, that was good that the door opened for the next group of people, because a bunch of those people left. And sometimes it's like playing time on a basketball team. All of a sudden, it's like, all right, I'm starting. I'm getting shots now. And then it can happen.
I used to say it all the time, and I think sometimes it was perceived as a knock. But to me, one of the best things that Hogan ever did was leave. And I don't mean that as a knock to him. It just, there's a comfort level and a focus there.
By the way, he's right here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm showing for the people listening to the podcast. I have every wrestling glass from this era, just so you know. Junkyard Dog, Roddy Piper, Big John Studd, Hulk Hogan, and Andre. And these are the best glasses ever.
And while it's still early, that's Rox Terramana in there, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right. This is like real glass, though. When it breaks, it's like a real danger. Like they were messing around in the mid-'80s. Anyway.
If you throw it down, it makes the glass break sound, and then you get a free Stone Cold Steve Austin in the mail.
Right.
And that'd be a good gimmick, right? So look, you can't get into a new relationship until you end the one you're in sometimes, and that is I feel like, and it's a process. It is what it is, but I would put my money on this company every day.
Can I give you like 2 nitpicks?
Sure.
Why is Raw still 3 hours?
Because
other than money, is that the only reason? It's just a money decision.
Yeah, and I think that yes. I was going to make a joke that Vince loves that challenge, which he does, and it's harder on everybody else. So he's like, yes, 3 hours.
If I was your consigliere and you're like, Bill, give us a couple ideas, I'd be like, make Raw 2 hours. Stack it. Make it a filet mignon. Give me your best 2 hours.
Bill, if you said 3 hours to 2 hours was your best idea, I wouldn't need you as my consigliere.
That's true. It's a good point.
I don't think that's a pretty obvious one. Yeah.
Well, why not? When can it happen?
Boy, that's above my my decision making level. But
all right, another nitpick. I have a better nitpick.
I can say this to you, like, and as much as people watch it and go, geez, I wish it was 2 hours, it's 3. It is exponentially harder to write a third hour of television. I mean, I can't even explain to you how difficult that is.
I can tell. It's hard.
Yeah.
You get 3 hours, even with commercials, it's still like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I don't even like 3 hour movies, I'll be honest with you.
So one thing that I think is fascinating about the last 5 years, wrestling has always reflected whatever is going on in the real world, right? With storylines and things like that. And you go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, and people like the Iron Sheik, the Nikolai Volkov. It was always like whatever was kind of going on with America, you could kind of see it a little bit in wrestling. Even like Bruno Sammartino, like, working class guy, this is our guy, kind of represented these things. Why hasn't the WWE tried to tap into just how crazy the last 4 or 5 years has been in America with any plots? Is it like too much of a stay away? Is it too scary?
I think that there are moments. So in all those other moments in time, the uniqueness of the world right now is this cancel culture concept. I believe in that. No matter what you do, if you stray too far, you run the risk of alienating half of the people,
right?
That are out there, maybe more. So I think you have to be much more calculated than you could be with something in the past. You could do an angle in the past and try to maintain a line and go too far with that line and get some backlash and pull it and it goes away. Now today it's different. And I think you just have to be careful with all of that. And I think you see that every single day from every single celebrity, news person, sports figure, across the board. It's very easy to put yourself in a position on anything where people go, that's it, I'm done. And are they? I don't know. But I think it requires much more thought. I also think in the short attention span theater in the world, if you said to me some of the things that are the most relevant in the last 5 years, I bet you could pick quite a number of them that in that 5 year span went from this was the belief and it's relevant to the exact opposite is now the belief and that's relevant.
Right.
It's almost difficult to really latch on to a moment in time because that moment in time is intense, but it's brief. 2 weeks later, it's gone and people aren't talking about it anymore. And it seemed like the biggest thing that's all anybody was talking about it. It's a unique time in the world, you know, and I have the feeling it's only going to get more unique.
Well, Vince was somebody who never shied away from those times where it's like, oh, this is happening. Screw it. Let's try to do some sort of angle or create some character with it. This time around, he said, I'm staying away, which is, but I would say uncharacteristic from him.
He's always taken calculated risks.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, Vince is not just a throw caution to the wind. I'm just going to go crazy and just do this unless he absolutely really believes in it. You know, they're all calculated risks. Here's the risk I want to take. Here's what could happen if it goes badly. I'm willing to take that gamble and I'll take the shot at it. You know, and when you are, I don't want this to make it sound like we're a cautious company but when you have more to lose and more on the line and more people that you're responsible for, more families, more opportunities, bigger companies, bigger growth opportunities, you know, you even just small shifts like going from Fox, USA cable to Fox broadcast and the level of scrutiny and everything else that comes along with that. You know, it's a different ball game, and there are different rules and things that you have to abide by. It's the calculated risk. You have to weigh it a lot more, and you have to be willing to. If you're going to take the gamble, you have to make sure that you have the right gamble happening, and you're willing to take the downside if it goes that way.
I think in the past, when the WWE crossed lines with some of this stuff, it was always a wink, wink thing. And now I don't know if that wink, wink thing even exists. And to your point, I'm not sure you could do it. Like even some of the stuff DX, the lines you guys tried to push in the late 90s.
Yeah.
In 2020, I just think people react differently to some of that stuff.
I think there are TV shows that were made 5-10 years ago that you couldn't make today.
Yeah.
That people wouldn't, half the jokes in them, people would not allow you to make. People's sensitivity levels of things. It's not a joke. It's, you know, it's a very sensitive time and people have to be cautious about what they do. And you're trying to be entertaining and draw a line and push the envelope, but you can only do it so much because the risk is very severe.
I think maybe the answer is you have the most woke wrestler possible who's just constantly offended by everybody else. And that's just his gimmick.
He never wrestles.
The woke warrior. He never worries. He's just upset the whole time.
He sits in the back and cries. He comes out every week and cuts a promo complaining about something. Yeah.
He's just trying to cancel everyone else on the roster. Can you walk me through?
Eventually he'll be a champion because everybody else gets canceled.
Can you walk me through Vince McMahon at this stage of his life? What's he like? Is the battery starting to wear down? Is he still throwing 100 miles an hour? Is he?
Absolutely.
How many hours of sleep? Like, what's going on with him?
He is a machine. You know, it's hard sometimes when you talk about it and people go like, well, God, that can't be good for him. He's getting older and all that stuff. Like, yeah, but it doesn't bother him. And he's, you know, he probably, I guess, given the circumstances, he's probably sleeping more than he ever has just because of the circumstances.
Yeah, you don't have to travel. Right.
Yeah, no, and the way things are. So it's a lot less than it used to be. But he is still, I don't know that he missed a day at the office. And it's a funny thing because it's just who he is. He's at the office every single day, even when no one was there. Like it's just,
right.
It's what he does. And, you know, but he still trains every day. if you go to the office and, you go downstairs at 1 or 2 in the morning, he's probably in there training. He's
Jesus.
just a machine, but that's what keeps him going. He eats incredibly well. He just, he's a very routine and disciplined person. So his diet is on, his, all those things are there. And, it's hard, I think, for people to understand when people are driven to do something. This is his passion still to this day. He's the most passionate person about this that I know, and he will do it. He doesn't get up thinking, oh, I got to go to work today, and I got to make all these calls, and I got to do all this stuff. I got to sit with this and do that. Like he gets up looking forward to doing it. It's the all these years later, it's still, he's dating the new girl in a way. Like it's still like, you can't wait to get up and get on the phone and do this stuff and go. And he just, it's awe-inspiring. It really is.
Do you think
that you still get there and still have that passion for everything?
Do you think 45 years from now when he dies, and it's like when Secretariat died and they did the autopsy and they realized Secretariat had a heart that was twice the size of a normal horse heart. And they were like, oh, that's why this was.
Yeah.
What happens with Vince? Do they find out he just didn't have blood, or what are they going to find out?
Flair used to joke all the time. We still say it to this day that he saw this special. I don't remember what it was on, but some documentary special on these people that have this particular gene where they never get sick. They don't get, diseases. They can abuse themselves, whatever physically, not eat well, not work out, not anything. And they just live long, healthy lives. And right up until the time they die at 100+ years old, they're still just going. And we used to say all the time, he's got the gene. Rick's got the gene, and it's why he's been able to survive everything he is, and he's still going, and he's still Ric Flair. And if anybody has that gene, it's Vince. That is something that when he passed, which I'm convinced most of us will be gone before he does, I think they'll find something like that out. Like he had some kind of crazy
he had a third kidney.
An endurance thing. Like it's a funny thing is too, some of my kids have it where they're just my oldest daughter can be up all night and just going, and I'm like, good Lord, she has her grandfather's stamina. It's insane.
What's grandfather Vince like?
He's awesome. They love him. He's busy and he works all the time, but when Vince is a funny guy that when he will work and do all the things, but when it comes down to it, if he needs to be there for something, for somebody family-wise or anything else, he is the guy that is right there. He's there for the things that they need to do. He's there for their events and their moments, whether it's by phone or whether they're in person, video, or whether they're in person or whatever. He's there and he's great, and he loves to have a good time with them. And it's funny when with family stuff, he's a lot of an observer. So he likes to sit and watch them do things and that kids do. And that's his class, but they love him and they love having him around, and he loves being around them. So it's awesome.
Your relationship with him, it's got to be one of the most unique relationships of any two men, right? Where you grow up in the WWE, he's your boss. You're battling him early. You become one of the biggest stars in one of the foundations. But now you're married to his daughter. Now he's the grandfather of your kids. But now you're behind the scenes and he's your boss. And you're just navigating basically every piece of Vince at the same time. I can't imagine there's a lot of people who have another person in their life like that.
Nah, I would imagine it's unique. Look, anybody, if you ever read books on it or see shows on it or anything else, family business is difficult, right? Because it's not, you don't walk away from it, and you don't, you don't hang up the phone, or you don't leave the office and go home and it's done and you forget about it. And it's 24/7 of your life, and it's every component of it, and it affects every component of it. So it's very unique and very difficult. And there's a lot of factors, and even how you react in business to each other, because it's family, and
Yeah.
you can treat your family different than you would treat everybody else. And there's just so many components to it, that it's difficult, but it's at the same point in time, while it's difficult, it's wonderful. And we all share the same passion for doing this.
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest form of entertainment, and are so passionate about doing it and being a part of it and seeing it grow for the next generation, whether that be my kids or anybody else. You just want it to continue and to be everything that it can be. And we're all hell bent on doing that. So at some point, while it's difficult, you're all working for the same cause, and you know that.
What's the biggest argument you've ever had with them? Was it when you were wrestling?
God.
Was there ever a time when you guys stopped talking?
Probably not to do the Katie Vick angle. I don't know. Yeah, I think for both of us, we kind of get over that. When we've had moments, and
there's a lot of testosterone between the two of you.
Yeah, and you have moments, and you have things that happen and come up and whatever, but then you get past it and you get over it. And look, for me, the other thing too is for me that while it's all business, if it meant the difference between my kids having their grandfather in their life and not, and that was the call on business, I step away. If it became that big of a problem, I would walk, because it's not worth that at the end of the day. But it's unique. Family business is tough, but it's awesome. It really is. I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, I got to tell you how you've affected my family. About, let's say 2 years ago, my son became enamored with Walter on NXT, and specifically the chest slaps. And so be in the kitchen, like, I don't know, making coffee or something. And then he would, all of a sudden, you hear the Walter music, and he'd be like, "Oh no, where is he?" And then my son would fly out of nowhere trying to chest slap me. And this has been the last 2 years of my life of him. It's almost like the Pink Panther, when the Pink Panther would just get attacked by that dude. My son with the Walter theme, and he's really kind of mastered the chest slaps. Like, they hurt, and he's smaller, and he can go up, and you can't like get him back because it's hard to chest slap down. So screw you, Walter, is my point.
Plus, it just looks bad. You run around the house just slapping the bejesus
right,
even if it's
I'm losing
chest.
that.
And let me just tell you something else that to me is the guys. Everybody always would say, "Oh my God, when Big Show would chop you, it had to be the worst thing ever." And I would say, "No, because his hand's so big."
Right.
Like to me, it was different. The guys that hurt worse for me were the guys with the little hands. Their hands are hard. They chop hard, and
like whips. Yeah.
And there's a smaller surface there, and it just would crack you. Like, God, So I'm imagining his hands aren't ginormous yet, so he probably is. It's probably a lot more painful than a normal chop. Well, at least I'll give you that anyway, so it doesn't sound.
It really
like
hurts.
You're complaining that a child is chopping you.
Well, I think I told you this when we were on the phone with us. I have like 6 months left, I think, before he might be able to beat me in a fight, because he's like 5'3.5", and he's thick, like he's future wrestler kind of body. Yeah. And I'm just he's kind of looking at me now, and I can see he's kind of sizing me up. Like, there's a moment when there's going to be the play wrestle where he's going to be like, I think I can take him. So I don't know. I'm just going to enjoy these last 6 months, but the slaps hurt. And there's been a big shift in the Simmons house. He has this whole library of WWE moves he studied since he was age 4. And I'm behind the 8 ball on this.
Let me know when you need him to come to the Performance Center, start rolling around a little bit to get him off of you.
He's ready. Remember, he came a couple years ago. He did a whole entrance. He's ready.
Yeah, no, he did. He had a blast. But, the physicality side of it, if I can wear him out of the Performance Center, maybe he won't beat you up so much at all.
That's true. How has the Performance Center been hurt the last 5 months? Have you still been able to work with your guys the same way and ladies?
No, that's been the craziest part, is we really haven't been able to get in there. We've tried to keep the environment as pristine as possible. NXT is still shot with our partners. Raw and SmackDown shot out of the Performance Center. We flipped it to a studio, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
so you haven't been able to work out with them at all?
No, every square inch of it has been, used for television. Plus, the other side of that is just medically, like, we were operating on a closed set with essential personnel, but the training side of it was, it's not necessarily essential. So we're trying to limit that. And we've just started back. We have a secondary facility. We've just started back training. You know, it even that to put together the medical protocols that everybody has to go through on a day-to-day basis to even get in the ring and train and do strength and conditioning work and everything else. It's very, very stringent. You know, now we're getting the performance center back because of the ThunderDome. You know, that will start debuting this Friday on Fox on SmackDown.
How many matches for you this year?
Right now, 0. Hopefully it will be 0.
You're unofficially retired because you're not retired because you'll definitely wrestle maybe once a year at some point.
I just feel like there's a moment where talent go like, I'm retired, and then you're not. Like, I'd rather just not say it. And if the right opportunity comes up that everybody believes is right, and I feel like I can do it without it falling apart, me or the match, then okay, I would consider it. I'm not at a point yet where I would say like absolutely not under any circumstances. Probably not that far off. But the thing for me that's good is I'm so transitioned over and satisfied with the other aspects of my career, my life, and everything else. Like, I get as much fun and excitement out of watching others do it and succeed at it. So, you know, I always will use this analogy that for me, NXT for me in a way, and even main roster, watching the guys and the girls, because they all come through there, but it's the difference between as exciting as your own career is than watching your kids succeed at something. It's a different level of passion and excitement and the pride that you feel. So while it was exhilarating for you, I've been there, done that side of it now for me. The other side is almost better. I almost prefer the helping them guide whatever aspects we can to that and giving them those opportunities to go out there and shine. And then, you know, one of the coolest things about doing is getting to do it with my best friend. So I'm sitting at gorilla position side by side with Sean, like two giddy little kids jumping up and down because you know, something that we helped somebody with, or we're watching them succeed, or that light bulb go off for the first time, or them have that level of success that they only dreamed about. Watching people, because you know what it meant to you, so watching them succeed at that dream is incredible. And to me, at this point, if the opportunity doesn't come again for me to step into the ring, and I get asked it a lot, it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't be like, oh man, I missed those last few years. I should have done it when I could have, you know.
Well, I went to what was Batista, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
I was in the front row with my insane son.
Yeah.
And you guys beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not one of those. It was like, we'll sneak Triple H in here, but we'll take it easy on him. You know, he hasn't wrestled in a while. I was like, you guys were like killing each other, and I was actually worried for both of you.
It's one of those things where like I think you either have to do it or you don't.
Right. And it was obvious from that night.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we both went in there with that mentality. We just have to do it. Dave wanted to make sure it was going to be his last one. You know, this was him coming to me and saying, this is what I'd like to do. This is how I'd like to do it. And okay, you know, for him. And so I just wanted to hold up my end of the bargain on it and make sure that he had the out that he was looking for. And he did, and it was very successful, and I was happy with that. But you kind of got to just go do it. And if you are at the place where you really can't commit to it anymore, you know, when we were in Evolution, every single night we'd be in some small town somewhere, and I'd watch Flair throw somebody out to the floor and then throw them out there and have them backdrop them on the floor, suplex them on the floor. And I would, every night we'd get in the locker room and I'd go, would you stop doing that? Like, you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it. But in his mind, he still wanted to prove that he could do it and take those things and do those things. It was like a proof point for him. For me, it's not necessarily a proof point, but it's like, if you're going to do it, if that's what I would have done then, that's what I got to do. I just still want to be able to go out there and do it, you know? This
was fun. Congrats on the ThunderDome. It was good to see you. Good luck with SummerSlam.
Thanks. So don't forget though. Don't forget also SummerSlam is Sunday, but Saturday night NXT Takeover 30.
Oh, you act like I don't know NXT Takeover is Saturday night. Come on.
I know you do, but you didn't bring it up to promote it. You had maybe come on to the end and window it myself. So now I got to talk about it with Karrion Kross and Keith Lee one of the biggest matches we've ever done in NXT, and Io Shirai, Dakota Kai. I mean, it's going to be a spectacular night. People shouldn't miss it. It'll be this is going to be one for the books.
Congrats. Good to see you. Talk to you soon.
Good to see you too, man. Yeah, I look forward to doing it again. We got to do it on a quicker cadence this time, not 5 years or whatever.
100%. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Tell your son, hey, take a chop for me.